Good morning, everyone. My name is Avital Mimran Rosenberg, and I will be your moderator for today's event. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to Israel's side event for CSW, Her Way, Ending the Cycle of Domestic Violence by Achieving Economic Independence. This event gives our intake on the CSW 67 priority theme, Innovation and Technological Change in Education in the Digital Age for Achieving Gender Equality and Empowerment of All Women and Girls. An important element of CSW is the ability to share best practices, and this is the aim of this session. Her Way is a unique program designed to assist survivors of domestic violence integrate into tech industry. We will use this as a case study to exhibit how collaboration between governments, private sector, and civil society can tackle social challenges. Now it is my honor to introduce Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, His Excellency Mr. Gilad Erdan, to deliver opening remarks.
Thank you, Avital. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the Rashi Foundation, Google, and Israel's Ministry of Welfare and Social Affairs, as well as their representatives here today with us, Ms. Michal Cohen, Ms. Shala Naimi, Yael Bala Avni, and Ms. Ayala Meir. Thank you for sharing your invaluable knowledge with us. They deserve a round of applause. They came all the way from Israel. Delegates, civil society leaders, and distinguished guests, welcome and thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining the mission of Israel to the UN. Today, at this crucial side event, we are honored to share practical tools and implementable frameworks for addressing a painful global phenomenon of the utmost importance: domestic violence. When I served as Israel's Minister of Public Security, I was exposed to the tragic magnitude of violence that women experience at the hands of their spouses. I made it a focal mission of mine to combat this pandemic of suffering using any and all means at my disposal. The number of victims of domestic violence around the world is larger than the number of those injured and killed by terror attacks, is larger. And in some places, the numbers are exponentially higher. If countries work together, like we do here now, sharing technology and best practices to fight terror, why should the same efforts not be made to combat domestic violence? Why? This is the goal that I set as Minister of Public Security, implementing state-of-the-art technologies in order to prevent domestic violence. From then until today, this issue remains one of utmost personal importance. In fact, the very first public event that I held as ambassador once I arrived in New York two years ago approximately, showcased Israeli technologies that could aid countries in combating this horrific phenomenon. Friends, too many women suffer from domestic violence, but one of the hardest aspects for many victims is extricating themselves from their poisonous relationships. Yet, even when a victim of domestic violence is in a safe environment, another challenge arises: economic independence. Too many victims are too afraid of the day after, of how they can support themselves and their children, to even consider leaving their current abusive situation. So many women are stuck with their abusers because they don't know how they can put food on the table without their abusive spouses. As Minister of Public Security, I aim to flip the equation, to break the hold that the abuser has on the abused. And this is precisely what we are discussing today. How to make survivors of domestic violence economically independent, and no longer reliant on those that cause them suffering. This is not only a game changer for victims, but also a deterrent for their abusers. Our goal is that violent spouses understand that they no longer have control over their victims. And this is the mission of Her Way. This program provides victims of domestic violence with the tools to ensure a bright future of employment and economic stability. And as Israel is a global hub of innovation and creativity, this is accomplished by assisting survivors through integrating them into the tech sector. Israel's booming tech sector provides today jobs for 10% of the Israeli workforce and is the perfect field to train and ultimately employ those that are in dire need of economic independence. Once a survivor has the skills and a profession, they know that they no longer need to be reliant on their abusers. And aside from this being a crucial aspect of rehabilitation, they can now be certain that they made the right choice. So friends, I will conclude with one final important message. Throughout CSW 67, hundreds of important events, discussions, and panels are held. But if we really want to make a change, more men must also take part in the discussion. While it's so wonderful to see some men here today, it is crucial that more of us take an active role in the solution. We can only end this pandemic if everyone takes a seat at the table. I wish us all a fruitful discussion and that today brings us one step closer to improving the lives of survivors of domestic violence around the world. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Erdan, for these very inspiring words. I am now pleased to introduce Ms. Michal Cohen, the CEO of the Rashi Foundation and the former Director General of the Israeli Ministry of Education, who will present her organization and its unique role in this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. The Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Mr. Gilad Erdan, friends, partners, and guests. It is a great honor for me to represent the Rashi Foundation here at the United Nations and to take part in this event, which is part of this year's session of the CSW. In Israel, even today, in 2023, the place where a child was born determines his future income and success. We at the Rashi Foundation believe that every child deserves to fulfill his potential, no matter where they live. So we work to make it possible, even when it is difficult to make the change happen. The Rashi Foundation has been working for 40 years to promote social mobility for the population of Israel's geographic and social periphery. Together with our partners, we focus on education, employment, and welfare. A few years ago, the Foundation received the status of advisory organization to the UN in the field of human rights. This was based on our decades of activity in the social arena, making opportunity available for the disadvantaged population in Israel from cradle to career. We are here today to spotlight our activity for women. Rashi invests a lot of efforts and resources in promoting gender equality and preventing gender violence. Full equality between men and women in the labor market is one of our main goals. We share the value of the CSW in promoting gender equality and empowerment of women. Our initiatives in this field serve women from all population groups in Israeli society. This creates great opportunity for teenagers, girls, young adult women, and mothers. Advancement of women is basic duty of every country. This is true at the level of values and morals. It is also the correct socioeconomic policy for any state. Women who come from disadvantaged background pay a double price. First, less opportunity are available to them because they are women. They simply do not have an equal position in the labor market. Second, their disadvantaged background make it personally difficult for them to break through. Our focus today is domestic violence. One of the less known parts of domestic violence is economic violence. Many women find themselves financially depend on a violent man, but they can't pull away from him since they are afraid from the financial future of them and their children. The Rashi Foundation has several methods to create significant impact on domestic violence on a national level. One of them is developing cross-sector initiatives. We partner with organizations from the civil society sector, the business sector, and the public sector. An example is a program called Bedarka, Her Way. This program for victims of domestic violence will be presented to you shortly. I would like to thank our partner, the Israeli Ministry of Welfare and Social Affairs, Ayala, Google, and the Israeli delegation to the UN. And I would especially like to thank the women who choose to put their trust in us. Her way helped them along the hard road from financial dependence to financial independence. My hope is that we will not need to fight for human rights in general, and especially for women's rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen, for your words and insightful remarks. Our next speaker will be Mr. Doron Avni, Google's Vice President for Government Affairs and Public Policy in Emerging Markets. As he was unable to attend personally, he sent us a recorded greeting.
Thank you all for joining us today for this event on ending the cycle of domestic violence by achieving economic independence. Thank you also to the permanent mission of Israel to the UN, and especially to Ambassador Erdan, and also to the Ministry of Welfare and Social Affairs and to the Rashi Foundation for not only co-hosting this important event, but also collaborating with us on innovative cross-sector partnerships. I believe that this collaboration, which you will hear more about from our panelists, is a great model for how private companies can collaborate with governments and with civil society organizations to tackle the world's most complex challenges. Together with NGOs and others in the industry, we support innovative technological solutions for domestic violence prevention. We've also supported the development of a guidebook and training for employers on how to identify and address causes for domestic violence that their teams might be experiencing. This inspired our employees in Israel to invest time in develop product solutions in Google Search. So I'm very proud that every time a domestic violence survivor search for information on Google Search related to what they've experienced, now we're providing them at the top of the search results, specific, helpful resources. I hope that this will all be a helpful blueprint for what we can all achieve together in the future. I wish you all a fruitful day.
Following these important opening remarks by the ambassador and our partners, I'm happy to introduce the members of our panel discussion, who will be providing an overview of the innovative solutions and tools used in Israel to combat domestic violence and to promote economic independence for women. Ms. Ayala Meir, a social worker, and I must say, Happy Social Workers International Day, is the Senior Director of Family and Children Community Services in the Department at the Israeli Ministry of Welfare and Social Affairs. Ms. Shala Naimi, the Human Rights Special Project Lead at Google, will present the business sector perspective. And Ms. Yael Bala Avni, Vice President of Programs at the Rashi Foundation for the Civil Society Angle. This stage is yours.
He was physically violent, made me feel that I wasn't good enough and that I won't be able to achieve anything in life.
Every time I had a chance to realize my abilities outside the house, my ex immediately blocked it. I was not allowed to go out and work. For years, I lived inside a golden cage.
Our relationship was based on control by the partner, tensions, and anger.
Twice I escaped to a shelter for victims of violence with my children. I experienced violence from an early age and didn't know any other language than the one that was conducted with my partner at home. I thought that everything was my fault, that this is what I deserve.
Many women who experienced violence feel incapable because that's what they hear at home and they believe it.
I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to manage on my own. I lived in an economic dependence.
I didn't think that I was suitable for the program. No one believed in me. I'm not young and didn't feel that I could have a career.
Hi, everybody. To understand a little about the scope of domestic violence phenomena in Israel, I'll share some data. In the last 5 years, 106 women were murdered by family members, 38% of them by the spouse or former partner, most of them due to their will to get a divorce. Over 50% of them were not known to the welfare services or the police and never applied for help. Last year, police opened nearly 24,000 domestic violence cases. The great majority of the complaints were by women. 170 domestic violence centers treated over 21,000 people in 2021. 66% of them were women, a 30% increase from the former years. And more than 700 women stayed in shelters in 2021, an 11% increase from the former year. COVID-19 made the government rethink and develop innovative solutions in order to make its services accessible to all groups of population and to increase awareness. As a result, we see now that more people, women and men, are applying for help and seeking treatment.
Hi, everyone. First of all, just thank you again for joining us all, and thank you especially to the Israeli mission for hosting us. As we've just heard from Ayala, domestic violence is a massive challenge, and massive challenges require innovative approaches. Every single actor, whether it's foundations, government, or the private sector, has something to add. And what I'm here to speak today is really specifically on the private sector. So whether it's at Google or at other tech companies, we are faced with a number of challenges. First, we just need more people to have technology skills. We want to hire more people into our own workforce, and across our industry, we are trying to enable more women to join the tech profession. This was and continues to be a challenge for us across the industry. Second, as some of you may know, our goal as a company is to build helpful products that improve the lives of as many people as possible. And that includes building for and with survivors of domestic violence. And thirdly, I'll mention that, within Google, we were organizing a number of initiatives around gender equality and equity, but they were all disconnected, and even internally they were disconnected. We were hosting trainings around online safety for women. We were building digital literacy programs to improve people's skills. As Doron mentioned, we created human resources trainings for individuals to identify cases of domestic abuses amongst their own employees. We were even designing recruiting programs specifically targeting to attempts to hire more women and underrepresented populations. All of these things were happening. Amazing. So within Google, we realized that we not only need to work across departments, but we actually needed to look outside of the company, outside of Google, to tackle the challenges within Google. And that was specifically by partnering with NGOs and with governments. Ambassador Erdan mentioned this, and I just actually want to take a very quick poll of the room to understand who's here. I wonder if you could just raise your hand if domestic violence is an issue in the country where you're visiting from today. This is a global issue, and it's just continuing to rise. And we really do hope that this collaboration in Israel is a good example of how a multi-stakeholder approach, a cross-sector approach, can address a complex challenge, because as we see here today, this is urgent and it's important.
Good morning. When addressing a complex problem like domestic violence, although it is the government responsibility to take care of the problem, we know that the government sometimes can't do it by herself. The role of the third sector in Israel and in other places is then to use our unique capabilities to share responsibility with the government and do things together. Philanthropic organizations like the Rashi Foundation that I represent and other NGOs in Israel and other places are all part of the civil society, and we all take responsibility together. The government sometimes find it hard to be flexible, to be fast. It is bureaucratic, but we can be innovative, we can be fast, we can be agile, and we can help the government to be that way when we collaborate together. We sometimes work with the government and sometimes we don't work with the government. But when we do, we collaborate all the forces together to do something that is different, that is larger than any organization by itself. We support NGOs and we invest resources and professional time and hours in order to work together to build initiatives that are it can be models that the government can adopt and that we can together work on. We are developing new services and new programs that we believe that will change reality. We do that by using our people on the field, organizations, volunteers, and communities.
In Israel, each ministry has its own role and duty. But we realized that coping with such a complex challenge, we need to work together, so we established and are operating an interministerial committee led by the Ministry of Welfare with other 10 ministries. There are a variety of programs, mechanisms, and solutions to treat domestic violence. Due to the shortness of time, I will list only some. Ministry of Welfare operates 16 shelters and 22 apartments for women in the community. We also operate apartments for men. that has a restraining order that includes personal treatment plan. There are family treatment centers in the local authorities specialized in domestic violence. Add to that, unique programming in collaboration with other government ministries, such as social workers in the police station, social workers who support new immigrants.
My project.
Your projects, our project together. A prevention program to promote healthy relationships in high schools and more. Another innovating program is one-stop center that is accessible 24/7 without having to open a file at the welfare services or at the police and without any bureaucracy. In addition, a free emergency call center which allows silent contact by SMS and a dedicated phone line for men. The Ministry of Public Security has special modified investigations, some innovating programs in collaboration with the NGOs, and we will hear about it later. Ministry of Justice provides free legal assistance for the victims and promotes innovative legislation. The Ministry of Health operates a unique process to identify victims of violence at the public clinics and facilitating awareness activities. The Ministry of Education operates prevention programs from the young ages to the teenage years in order to promote and provide life skills for preventing violence, promoting healthy, intimate relationships, and teaches how to identify warning signs. The National Authority for the Status of Women runs a public campaign for the bystanders standards to raise awareness.
Amazing. So as mentioned, a complex problem needs an innovative solution, one that is rooted in a cross-sector approach. So why should we work together? So there's no complex problem, I think we can all agree, that can be solved in a vacuum. We need to work together across civil society organizations, NGOs, government, and the private sector in order to, one, optimize resources, to maximize, and apologies, this is very business speak, but this is the way that we think about things on occasion, which is to optimize resources, to maximize the added value of each sector, and most importantly, to provide survivors with a single point of contact. Do we want to send a survivor to 10 different places, with each place telling them, no, we only can address this one very small part of your problem. To address the different part, you have to go 3 kilometers away and talk to a different person, and then go another 3 kilometers and talk to a different person and make another appointment. That's not what we want. Instead, what we want is to be able to send them to a single place that will take into consideration all of the amazing social services that the government provides, all of the job opportunities that a company provides, and of course, all of the treatments and services that an NGO provides. That's why we want to work together.
So we want to work together. Why, you heard, but it's not so easy to do it. So how we work together? We represent different organizations, as you can see, different approaches, different sides, different interests, different ego. Each organization is big, it has its own ego, but we understand that we can't work alone, that the problem is huge and that we have to work together. So what we do is we do our best to have a shared knowledge, shared language, and shared goals that we all believe in. And that way we create to ourselves a collective ego that is of all of us and not of one organization alone. The process is based on trust and recognition of the strength and of another organization, not just my organization, but the other organizations. But also, we need to understand the difficulties of our partners. If we can talk openly about the difficulties that each organization has, then we can work together and we can bring to the table a language and a goal and an activity that will help women and will help men and will help children on the other side. If we are all focused on our beneficiaries, we see the women, not our organization or our side. And if we insist on database work and on outcome-oriented work, we can do better together. And before we go on to her way, we want to share with you a short video of innovative solution in Israel for domestic violence. Some of them are technological, some of them are not. Some of the people who invested a lot in them are here with us today, and some not. But join us for that.
As nations, we must use innovative solutions to save the next victim.
One box is a designated search result, a box at the top of the search result page. When a user searching for a variety of terms related to domestic violence, the user will get the hotline of the Ministry of Welfare. And this search results gives you the information directly and not links that lead you to websites with that info. We're very proud that an initiative that was born in Israel by female Googlers turned into a global tool that is now available to users across the world in different countries. There are so many ideas out there. We support startups with Google for Startups and Michal Sela Forum that can really bring new innovative solutions for prevention and to help women in abusive relations.
My young sister, Michal Sela, she was murdered in her own home in 2019. I was the last person to see her alive. This is why I built Michal Sela Forum, innovative thinking to save lives of women in their own home. How come the way that governments protect women that they are threatened in their own home, they protect them by hiding them in a shelter? She should be free. The attacker, he should be locked down. You have dogs in the police, in airports. Why not to protect threatened women with dogs? Michal Sela Canine is a project to save lives of women in their own home with protection dogs. We built it with alumni of OCAT's unit in the IDF. We took this knowledge and we brought it to domestic violence field.
אישה או גבר שהם נפגעי אלימות במשפחה היו צריכים להתחיל לעבור מגורם מקצועי אחד לשני. דברים שלוקחים המון זמן, ומהניסיון שלי הרבה פעמים הם פשוט היו מתייאשים. מרכז אלומה זה מרכז חדשני, בית שהוא one stop center בשביל נפגעי ונפגעות אלימות במשפחה.
תוצר של שיתוף פעולה מאוד מיוחד בין גופים שעובדים כל הזמן ביחד, אבל לא באופן הזה, ולא מובן מאליו בכלל שמצליחים כולם ליטרלי להתכנס תחת קורת גג אחת. יושבים פה ביחד עובדים סוציאליים, חוקרי משטרה, עורכי דין ופסיכיאטר. היא עובדת באופן שבו שירותי הטיפול לא רגילים לעבוד בכלל. וכאן הייתה איזו מוכנות לעשות את הכל אחרת, שכל נפגעת אלימות תוכל באמת לקבל את המענה שהיא צריכה. הדרך היחידה להצליח לעזור במצבים שהם כל כך מורכבים, היא רק אם נאחד כוחות.
The Iris tool was developed during the Corona period. We needed to think creatively how to help the person who's being at home or maybe being in a violence relationship. Iris is an online questionnaire which is designed to help a victim of domestic violence or someone who knows such a victim. The questionnaire can be filled out in just a few minutes, after which the filer receives an initial assessment of risk level and equally important, recommendations for action. It allows us to get to more people at the population, the people who are not coming to our centers, or maybe they do not understand that they are being in risk. In just one click, you can make a great change at people's life.
If physicians are given some kind of a tool that will provide them with evidence, this patient is at risk. You should ask this patient. It will help them be more comfortable with approaching the subject of domestic violence. Basically, what Medflig's aim to do is to harness the power of the healthcare system into the combat of domestic violence.
בעצם יופיע דגל בתוך המסך, והדגל הזה יצביע על רמת הסיכון של אותו מטופל. זה יאפשר לרופא לגשת למטופל ולשאול את השאלות הנכונות שונות כדי לזהות את המצב.
First time in Israel history that we are crossing these kind of databases, the healthcare database and the welfare database.
Evidence-based medicine, ללמוד מדפוסים של קבוצה אחת לקבוצה אחרת, להשתמש בזה כדי לזהות וכדי לעזור לרופאים ולעזור גם לנפגעים להיות מסוגלים לדבר על הסיטואציה הזאת. וברגע שניתן כלים וזה יעזור להתגבר על הבושה, אז היכולת לטפל תהיה הרבה יותר טובה.
As a kid that experienced domestic violence, I remember that a lot of times I wanted to reach out to aid organizations or crisis lines, and I remember that was a big shame. Actually, I didn't do it. And what we decided to do with the butterfly is to give a person the opportunity to reach out anonymously. The butterfly button is a feature that can be integrated in any application or website in the world. Once installed, it enables a discrete support without leaving any traces on the user device. Pressing the button, instantly you get a platform discreetly and anonymously that you can get advice and support from a domestic violence expert. So what we try to do is to harness those big companies, the tech companies, the business companies, the biggest companies in the world, into the fight in domestic violence to join us, and together we'll make a difference.
We grew up with the press. It's not shameful to ask for help, but reality show otherwise. Only a third of those who experience distress or trauma will turn to professional assistance. 7 Chairs is a digital platform in a field of wellness, allowing people to generate movement from complex crises in their lives with a group of other people who are anonymous to each other, sharing pain, trauma, strength, and life strategies. Guided by a professional group leader. A group of equal meet once a week on a fixed day and time, men and women who have experienced violence, who can feel that they are not alone.
So we're going to talk about Hairway now. Cross-sector work creates different perspective on social problems, as you heard us. When Hairway was born, we looked together and defined 2 national problems that did not look connected before. The uprising numbers of domestic violence cases, especially during COVID-19, and the lack of gender diversity in the high-tech industry in Israel. Hairway aims to make a change in both by promoting financial independence to domestic violence victims, who are all women, who will help growing diversity when they start working in the high-tech industry.
Amazing. So as Yael mentioned, so far we've talked a little bit about the theoretical basis for a cross-sector partnership, and we're excited to now be able to turn to the specific example of Hairway. What I want to emphasize here is that every single group involved has brought some very unique expertise to the table. The Ministry of Welfare and Social Affairs has brought its extensive services supporting survivors of domestic violence, and its on-the-ground staff across the country to tackle these national challenges. The Rashi Foundation brings its expertise in developing social initiatives and a culture of agility and learning as you go, which is critical for a multi-stakeholder approach. And then we at Google have tried to bring our knowledge of the tech industry and tech upskilling, as well as some of our experiences in trying to tackle these issues from a tech perspective, like the one-box solution that Noah mentioned in the video. These are all necessary for designing a program like this, and we're excited to now be able to share with you that design.
So, for a better understanding Hairway, it is needed to go through the dynamics of domestic violence. In violent intimate relationship, as part of the strong will for control, spouses act purposely to block the personal and professional development of their partners, mostly female, and make them economically dependent. This is nice. Research and field practice show us that employment-oriented training is among the most effective means of advancing victims of domestic violence towards economic independence. We also learned that career training for these women must be adapted to their life circumstances and unique needs. Hairway is aimed not only to help women to be working, but to enable them to fulfill their ambition and potential in the employment world and to achieve quality jobs with a relatively higher income, especially employment that would allow them more flexible working hours suitable for single mothers.
Hellway program is open for domestic violence victims when they are already out of the abusive relationship and after a shelter period. All participants are being treated in the community centers for domestic violence, and they are all women that has shown interest in studying and working in high-tech jobs. The program is based on a learning community that enables participants giving and getting emotional and practical support from the social worker that leads the program and from one another. We are focusing on detecting and removing obstacles that they have along the way. For example, if they don't have the money to pay for a babysitter that will be with the kids when they are studying, we will pay for the babysitter. If they need a laptop to go on with the studies, we will pay for the computer. But not only budget obstacles are on the way, and sometimes women don't have a safe and quiet place to study. So we locate at the community a safe place that is quiet without the children, that they can study quietly. The program staff and the personal mentors that are escorting the women along the way, they are all from the industry, the mentors, and they are all connected. The social worker from Hellway, the social worker from the community, and the mentor, and they are doing a joint effort to help each and every one of the women to go on through the course, which is sometimes very, very hard, and we will talk about it in a minute, but also to get a job, to be employed in tech industry after they finish with the course. So just a few words, we're almost done, about the way that women in Hellway are going through. We had up until now 4 groups. You can see what they learned: data analysts and customer success and HR, different kinds of jobs that suitable different kinds of women, because we don't always want to study the same thing. And they go through a process. They start with exposure that is very open to social workers and to women who are interested in working in high-tech. Sometimes they don't know what it means to work in the high-tech. They don't meet people like Shala, that it's their daily base. And when they understand, and when they see a model, when they see that it's possible, that women are doing it, it makes a difference, and they fear less. The second stage is vocational assessment. We want each and every one of the women to be able to test herself and see if it's suitable for her, and if it is, what job she should take, what she should study, what it will be good for her and to her future pictures that she has in her mind. Afterwards, they go through pre-training. It's a preparatory time that helps them bridge gaps in mathematics, in English, but also in skills of the 21st century that sometimes they don't have, sometimes they didn't work for many years, or worked for sometimes and didn't work for a long time, so they need to catch up with the skills that they didn't use for a long time. After that, they go through a certification course, and when they finish the exam and succeed in the exam, they can go on to placement. I want to share with you just a few words that our participants are sending while we are talking, because we are live on Facebook, so they can send us messages. And 2 women that sent us messages, one said that the course has allowed her to fly, but not only to fly by herself and in her own way. So that's what we're talking about in her way.
This This is a significant and amazing financial step that can change my lifestyle as a single mother.
I'm working as a data analyst after completing the course. And at last, I'm not at the mercy of my ex-husband and his alimony payments. It's a very encouraging place to be.
Being accepted to the program made me realize that I can fit into the world of high-tech. If other people think that I am worth something, it must be true.
In the program, I heard for the first time that I can, which is something I've never heard before. I received knowledge and tools that will allow me to get ahead in life.
The course gave me a sense of meaning and personal worth. I'm proud to say that now I have a profession. It's important that the program continue for the sake of the many women victims who don't have the strength to improve their circumstances on their own.
The Darka was there to change my life destiny. Now I'm a data analyst, and I feel that I'm finally starting to fulfill myself.
Without this program, I would probably not have gotten anywhere. Studying opened my mind in a way that I cannot explain.
2 years ago, I made a last desperate effort in order to stay alive. Economic pressure is a trigger that pushes women back into domestic violence, which is what this program aims to change.
Today I work as a data analyst. I look at my paycheck and can't believe it. Before, I had to live off the few savings that were left after the divorce. And now for the first time, if my child wants a game, I can say, sure, with pleasure.
So just a few more words about the outcomes. You heard from the women, it's the strongest way to understand, but I want to share with you that 100% of the women says after the course that they got all the aid that they needed to go through this process. 84% said that they feel capable and they are joyful, much more than they were before. 100% of the women finished the preparatory time, and most of them finished the course itself, and some of the courses are still going on as we speak. And most importantly, not most importantly, but very important, over 30% are already placed in jobs in the tech industry in Israel. So at that point, I would just want to salute those women. They are brave. They decided to go through a road that is so hard. It is not hard. It is very hard to be a domestic violence victim, but it's also very hard to decide that you are going on a new road, that you're going to be independent, that you're going to have a large salary, you have to study, you have to take care of your kids. All of them are single mothers, and they are doing it bravely. So if you hear us, Hairway community, I salute you.
I hear this testimony for a few times till now, and every time I'm with tears, very exciting. This is the last part, and then we'll open it. So in this session, we talked a lot about Israeli action in a variety of sectors and public systems. But as always, there is more to do, and we are working on it. I will remark only some of them in a few areas. In the area of legislation, we want to include economic violence as part of the law. We want to put electronic tagging in a risky situation, or dividing assets in a divorce process. Treating of children exposed to violence without the consent of the violent parent. Divorce, custody, and child support laws, and so on. In the area of education, we want to advance more and develop technological education from a young age with emphasis on girls and female adolescents, preparation for the world of employment and prevention workshops on the subject of violence and non-normative relationships. In the area of treatment and prevention, we want to make and develop more diverse range of protection programs, protecting of women using technological tools, as we heard, and in instruments. Other security solution for victims that cannot or will not go to the shelters. Several interesting initiatives are being developed right now by civil society together with the government. Treatment program for men, as we heard Lily Ben-Ami, Michal Sela's sister, for long before the violent occurs. Anonymous online interventions, programs for treating children, and more and more. We have a lot of work to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ayala, Shala, and Yael for that insightful panel. And we have some time left that we have left for us for Q&A. So if anyone has any questions for our panelists.
Men drink a lot, and if he earns $10 a day, 60 to 70% of the money goes to alcohol, and the remaining comes to the family expenses. Whereas a woman earns half of what he is earning because there is a huge gender pay gap, and she contributes the entire amount to the family and still get the beatings. And sometimes the beatings gets hard and they end up in the one-stop solution centers that has been created by the government, which is beautifully working. But my question is to you from your practice, they are in the short stay home for some 1 month or 2 months, after which they are not able to keep and they go to the abusive relationship again because they are financially not strong. They are not financially independent. So I just want to know from her way and from other practices, just a simple question that how long do you keep them in the shelter home, and how do you reassure that they are not going back to the abusive situation because of the financial, lack of financial independence? Thank you. Just one practice, because we are working on the same domain.
Maybe we should gather a couple of more questions for our panelists and do it together, and answer everything together.
I like to congratulate you for excellent work you have done. It was mentioned shortly, but how often men are victims of domestic violence in Israel? And I didn't hear anything about the fact that whether this concerns only heterosexual couples or other types of family also involved. But excellent work you have done.
We'll take just a couple more and then
Excuse me.
you can each go.
I am a religious, a nun, a Dominican sister. I am from the Philippines. And I've been working with abused women. And my paper is on intimate partner violence. So I understand that financial dependence is one of the factors of women not living an abusive relationship. But my question is, besides for giving financial independence, are there more activities that we can employ so that we can have this preventive, not only intervention, but I guess prevention is also a way to help women, because we will not allow these men to continue abusing our women, isn't it? So that in order for us to be able to be more effective and to teach these women to be able to prevent more of being abused, I think and I believe that we have to have a prevention program. So that is my question is if besides for financial independence, are there more programs that you envisioned to be able to prevent more abuses? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, we can do another round with questions, but we'll take one more answer and then we'll try it again.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah? Okay, thanks. Good morning. My name is Cynthia Williams. I am representing Belize in Central America. Thank you very much. This was a very dynamic session of all the sessions that I've also attended. It's very interesting because the work that we do also with women facing domestic violence, we are a government entity. We respond to families in crisis. And so we work as well with NGOs in terms of the provision of shelter, where they do stay between 21 days. But many of them, we have 3 nationally, but many of them allow them to stay up to 6-7 months. We provide the additional aspects of care and support during the time that they're in the shelters, and when they leave, we assist them in terms of the additional expenses because they don't have that economic independence. So we provision of rentals, education, food, and everything. Now, the aspect of economic independence is also a challenge for us in Belize, and often it is marred even further by the gender roles that these women usually are assigned to in terms of even the type of work that they may choose or can go into. So I have 2 questions. One is in terms of the educational background of the women that you work with, because for the most part for us, the women that we work with don't have any education. Many of them are illiterate, so they can't even write their names. And so it is often a challenge, and the time that needs to be invested in terms of getting them from point A to B, much less E and F, takes quite a lot of time that even takes away from their emotional, psychological aspect, and then often end up still going back even though we are providing everything else for them. That's one question. The second one is also in terms of because I really love the fact that it is working with tech companies. We do in Belize, there's a fast rate growing sector of call centers in Belize, and that's one of the options that we're looking at because we recognize that many of them will continue to have issues in terms of their care, the support system that they no longer have because they're at the point where even their families are not supporting them. And so how do you help those women be able to identify and see themselves in these spaces when for many years they have never been given an opportunity or even told that tech, you're not good at tech. Tech is not for women. So how did you deal in that aspect?
Yeah, we'll answer the first round and then we'll see if we have time.
So I will take the last one. I think you heard the women. Most of the women that go through abuse don't believe in themselves and they don't believe they belong to the tech industry or even to the employment market as a whole. So what we do is we have a continuum of services in Israel. Ayala can talk about it later. So Hellway has come to them in a junction between being in a shelter or in an apartment of the welfare system and going to financial independence. It's a way that they have to go through. When you go out of shelter or out of the apartment, you get money from the government so you can get along with your life, but it's not a stable salary and it's not enough, and you go through a road. And on that road, we needed to find women that the program is suitable for. It's not good for everybody. You have to love tech. Not everybody likes it. I don't think I love tech or I could have worked with computers all day, so not everybody likes it. We have to have variety of educational programs. We have to have variety of occupational programs, and we have to find each and every one of the women something that is suitable for her. I think that what we succeeded in doing in her way, because it's a cross-sector program, is that we found something that is a win-win. It's win for the tech industry that needs diversity, needs more women, needs more workers, and it's win for domestic violence victims who are interested in working in tech. So.
I promise you that if I could speak in Hebrew now, it would be better for you and for me, but I'll try to speak in English and to answer. As I said, there are 16 shelters in Israel. There is no limit of time that women can stay in the shelter. Obviously, it's not a natural environment for children and mothers to be, so there are, the majority is staying like 3 or 6 months in the shelter, but they can stay more. It depends of the risk they are feeling or their needs, because it's not only they are at risk, sometimes they need the shelter with the support and the treatment and the social worker that helps them and the lawyers that helps them to be independent. So this is the answer for you about the shelters. We just explained few programs today, but we have some programs to help women to be economically independent when they leave the shelters, or either they are in the community and never got to the shelter. We have a new, it's called like a new paper, Daf Chadash, that supporting and accompany women during 1.5 years with flexible budget, with social workers and mentors that going each day with them, with the children and with the women, and help them to get good work, and not only the tech work, every work that they need. We as well in the social services, we help them, the women and the children that want to go out from the violent home, that we help them we give them some money to buy things to the new house and to help them,
Ministry of Housing.
The housing, Ministry of the Housing are helping them with extra finance their rent, to rent a flat. So there are some variety of programs that helps women to go, to feel and to be more resilient and more strong to do the steps. But we know in domestic violence, it's very, very difficult. Many women, we help them and they go back, and we help them again and they go back. It takes like several times that they are going and they getting help till they have, till they feel strong enough to do it. Your question about men. because
heterosexual or other type of.
Sorry?
And also whether it involves only heterosexual or other type of families.
Yes. So as I said, we have like 170 centers, special centers for domestic violence treatment for all type, men, women, and children, for all type of family. We don't choose. We know that there are men that feel like vulnerable, and they can get help in our centers. We don't helping only the women; we help the men too. But we know it's if we say in domestic violence, it's a hidden a lot of shame for women to go out and say that I'm a battered woman. We know that men is more difficult to do it and to say that they are vulnerable. But we are in the CSW committee, so we are talking about women today. So next time, maybe we'll talk more about the men. Thank you.
We have, I think, just Sorry, time for maybe one more question, I think in the back of the room.
Thank you so much. Morning, everyone. My name is Nojis Saad. I'm a young social entrepreneur and come from Iraq. I've grown up in a small, conservative, rural town where I saw my mom and the women in my family going through domestic violence on a daily basis, including physical, sexual, financial, and emotional. But especially the biggest barrier to their independence was financial abuse, and it was brutal. And when it comes to like the rural communities like mine, especially in the countries in the global south, there was literally no NGO or government agencies that made enough efforts to reach my town and educate people on the epidemic of the violence that was going on the ground. So my question is, are there any policies, strategies or investments that are specific to the marginalized and rural communities to end violence in these communities? What about the women and the young people that are suffering in these remote communities and have been forgotten for years by their governments and the international community? I want to speak up for their rights. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to sort of start with a little bit of at least my take on that. So I work for Google. My family is from Afghanistan. I know what you're talking about. My father was born in a very small village, and my mother is one of 12 children. So I think what I would just say there is, the truth of the matter is there's no easy answer and there's no solution right now. The first step is infrastructure. And one of the things we do try to do at Google is share some innovations and open research around spectrum sharing and infrastructure sharing. It's a huge investment for governments. If the government is interested, let's start there. If the government is interested, it's a massive investment to be able to build in rural areas so they have access to online services. Then we talk about inconsistent access. It's not helpful for someone to have access to the internet for, 1 hour of 1 week or access to electricity for 20 minutes every single day. So, it's not a perfect answer, but I will just say that I think the solution starts first with infrastructure. And then from infrastructure, it's everything else. It's basic education, it's information literacy. I think one of the, the theme of CSW this year is online. It's technology facilitated violence. It's one thing to have access to the internet, and that is a huge challenge in itself. And then how do we ensure that all of these women, girls, men, children, et cetera, are safe online? Because without that safety, nothing else is really feasible. And so it's not a solution by any means. It's only to say that, you're talking about the majority of the world. And I think it's really important, and it's something that I think all of us care about, and we hope to be able to partner on solutions in the long term. But I do think it's a long-term issue. It's not something that's 2 years.
Thank you, Shala. And thank you, first of all, for the good questions and this interesting debate. Thank you, Ambassador Ardan, Ms. Cohen, and our panelists for sharing this useful and inspiring knowledge. To all of us who joined us today, please make sure to take a copy of the toolkit that was prepared. We also, by our partners, and of course, in the end of the toolkit, which is a brief, you also have a QR code where you can find a more extensive explanation about the project and how you can implement it wherever you are, and also a small token on your way out. If you have further questions, I invite you to speak with our partners outside of the room, as we will need to make sure that we prepare this for the next event. Thank you so much.